He played in 701 NHL games over his 13-year NHL career, known for his work in the faceoff dot, his effort and willingness to make sacrifices on every shift, even tapped in a couple of power play goals during his career, made the transition into the front office just 2 years after playing in 2013 when you became a team consultant for the Vancouver Canucks. From there, you became the assistant director of player development before taking on the role of general manager for the Utica Comets. He is now the assistant general manager for the Vancouver Canucks and general manager for the Abbotsford Canucks. Our guest today on the Canucks Insider podcast is Ryan Johnson, and it's an exciting time to get you on the pod here, Ryan. The way that you guys are heading into the playoffs here, I know the excitement level out there from the fans in Abbotsford is huge. What's your excitement level looking at it?
Obviously, some nerves coming into it, as always. Excited for the community of Abbotsford, for our organization, and I know people across the province pay attention to both our teams. So I think our players have earned the opportunity. Our coaches have earned the opportunity to play playoff hockey, and we're just excited to get it going.
It's been a few years now with Abbotsford out there as the AHL team. How have you seen the fan base kind of evolve and really start to take in this team as part of the community?
Well, I tell everybody, we feel like a community-owned team. We're close enough to Vancouver where the connection is there, and far enough that I think the Fraser Valley and the city of Abbotsford have kind of taken us in as their own, and our players feel that, our staff feel that. I'm excited for our support, and I think connection to the organization has grown every year, and for our fans to have an opportunity to see our players live and possibly the next night see them down here on TV or live at Rogers Arena, I think is a really cool way to involve them in the process of developing players inevitably that hopefully give us a chance to win a Stanley Cup here.
It was interesting throughout the year when I was out there talking to guys at practice or post-game, and it felt like something that was consistent through the whole year was like there's something being built throughout the year. It's a new coaching staff that comes in, some new players in the mix as well, building and building and building. And then you have the final bit of the season here, playing some pretty good hockey. What did you think of just the way that this group built throughout the year and kind of built up to the point right now where you're heading into the playoffs?
Well, not only this year. I think it's something that we've started building from year one here, an environment there that allows players to grow and develop. And I think from this year's standpoint, we really battled consistency. As a staff and as players, it's one thing we wanted to stay consistent with the foundation and the messaging, and knowing that if we stayed consistent with it, that inevitably it would pay off for the group. So I'd say, you always felt like there was something there. But once we got everybody on board and the players continued to develop and grow their games, we felt if we stayed with it, eventually we'd have an opportunity to win some hockey games. And at the same time, these individuals are growing not just as players, but as people as well. So it's been a rewarding but an arduous process. There's some long days and some interesting conversations. But when you get to this point and feel like you've got a chance to go play some meaningful playoff hockey, this is now the pinnacle of development. This is where these guys can take a next step in their careers.
And it's so interesting, especially with this team, because a lot of these guys were here that first year in Abbotsford, and they've really grown their careers. A lot of them were, at the time, were 20, 21 years old. Klimovich was 18 years old when he comes in here, and they're kind of developing not just as players, but as you mentioned, kind of as men as well, and watching them kind of grow that. How much do you take pride in just being able to kind of assist them in the non-hockey part of watching them grow?
Well, it's a huge part of it. I always say we're trying to develop players, but we're developing people at the same time. It's amazing to watch these players change on ice, but also off ice. We've talked about it as a group. We've had a lot of love and loss that our players have gone through in their personal lives. We've had babies welcomed in, had guys get engaged, and players have lost people in their families. And that is something that we're always have a hand on in supporting through that standpoint. But to see these guys come from almost kids to young men and watch them grow, you mentioned Klimovich and some of these guys that have been with us from day one, to see them evolve and change their game on ice, but also grow as people is just as rewarding.
Who takes not necessarily credit for that, but who are some people that you give credit to? Like, aside from yourself, obviously you play a big part of kind of setting that and watching it flow throughout the organization. I'm assuming some people on the coaching staff, even some trainers who have been here for a while, and the assistant staff around. Like, who do you kind of give credit to for helping them with that?
Well, I think my biggest responsibility is to hire really good people that can walk into the environment that I feel needs to be for these young men. And our entire staff, inevitably, not just our coaches, they're a part of our player development model. So on the equipment side, with Chico and Shingo from the athletic therapists, in Nate and Ross, John Murray on the strength conditioning side, obviously Manny and Jordan and Harry and Andrew and Justin. I am so thankful and grateful to have a staff that I do that understands what we're trying to deliver each day for these young men. And like I said, they're all a part of our player development pool, not just our coaches. And I'm very fortunate to have a great group of leaders as far as the players in that dressing room. And obviously Chase Waters as our captain sets the table for every single day that we walk into that facility. But he's got a great support group and some amazing young men that set the bar, not just, I always say Friday at 7 o'clock at puck drop, but Monday morning at 8 o'clock when they walk in the facility. There's a plan, there's a purpose, and there's a sincerity to how they care for each other and look out for each other.
Something I hear Rick Tocchet and Patrick Allvin both speak about so much is those practice habits. And that's something I hear that on Abbotsford all the time. It's what happens Monday to Friday up until 7 p.m. that really means what happens at 7 p.m. on Friday. How do you think Manny's done in his first year of just kind of establishing those practice habits? Because from hearing some people that were around him in his playing days, he was a practice monster. So I have to assume he's bringing that as a coach as well.
Absolutely. And it's something we talk about on the daily, is the professionalism of our players and how they push each other. The iron sharpens iron in practice. And Manny has done an outstanding job. I think some people have to realize that we have 5 new coaching staff members that had to come together, that only one had true AHL coaching experience, and that was also limited. So the AHL, as you know, it's an entire different monster, and as Manny has called it and learned, that it's the adaptable hockey league. You have to be on your toes, be ready for change, and he's really embraced that, which is great for somebody in my position who the phone calls or the conversations are usually an addition or a loss of a player, very impactful player at that, and you have to be willing to adjust and the next man in. And he's done a phenomenal job of getting everybody on board with that same mentality, and it's really paid off for our group.
And you have the experience with that, obviously, with your time around the AHL. So I'm sure that Manny probably had to lean on you quite a little bit at the start of the year, because you mentioned it, like the AHL, you are typically losing some of your best players when they are heading up to the NHL. That makes a big change to your lineup. So how has he kind of adjusted to that? It sounds like it's something that, I have to assume it's kind of almost a shocker at the start of the year when you're like, oh, well, there goes my 1C, there goes my top D. Like, has to be a lot for a head coach.
For sure. And for him, 7 years as an assistant coach in the National Hockey League, you're used to the next best player walking through your door and jumping into your lineup. Yeah. Now to be on the other end of it. In the summer after hiring him, we had a lot of conversations of just what the league was like, what we had to prepare for, what a roster even looked like. It's not a 23-man roster. Sometimes you're light, sometimes you're heavy. Managing extra bodies, the development of these players and the priority of that, the travel, so many different, the vet rule and all these things that say, whoa, what is that? How does that work? So had a lot of great conversations, but I've enjoyed it and the process with him and working through this and watching him grow and adapt and understand. And I think, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he's really embraced it and really enjoyed it and the impact that he's been able to have on some of these young men.
And I know the way that you guys finished the season so strong, but this Tucson team gave you guys troubles throughout the year. They won 5 of the 8 games that you guys played against. So what is just the mindset of this group, and what's it been like, I guess, to start this week with practice and prepare for this Tucson team?
Well, we have a ton of respect for Tucson. They're a heavy team. They've got some good young players mixed with some experience. I think we respect everybody in the division, even the non-playoff teams. There's so much parity in our division. So I think our main focus is obviously, and our respect for them, is just trying to make sure that we play to our formula, to execute the game plan that has given us success throughout the year. And it's very clear to us when we haven't had the success, we've gotten away from that identity and that formula. So we're just looking, the preparation, even into the last few weeks, into the practice the next couple of days, is make sure we're very clear on how we have to play and let the cards kind of fall as they may.
Something that's been interesting at the end of year kind of media, and it was a lot of talk kind of near the end of the season in Vancouver, was that there were 16 different players who played for Abbotsford and Vancouver this season. What does that number kind of mean to you?
Well, I think it's a credit to our group also here in Vancouver that with the coaching staff and to be able to implement some young players like that and stay in the playoff race to where we did. But it's something that right from day one of our meeting in Calgary with the AHL group was understanding that players don't really want to be in the American Hockey League. And we understand that and empathize with that. But now what can we do to get you ready for the next opportunity or get you ready to be an NHL player? And so I think the players understanding that that is the goal and that not a 5-point weekend in the American Hockey League doesn't translate to being a good NHL player. The details, the execution of the symmetry of what we're talking between Vancouver and Abbotsford, if those things are executed, you've got a chance not only to go up and play, but go up and be very successful. And I think that has been the messaging and almost overkill with it. We are there. But when the players now come up and see that Rick Tocchet is valuing their wall play, their puck management, the physicality, the net front, and all those things that you guys are very well aware of, that's what we're harping on every day there. It's not about, hey, find your cookies, cheat the game, and maybe you'll get your opportunity. And I think our players have really learned that, bought into it, and understand now why that messaging is there.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch because I think you mentioned like a guy can have a 5-point night, and it's like, oh, you know, when you do need a player, is he the guy who gets the call up? But something that Manny brought up when he was on the pod was like he's not preparing a player to go play a game in the NHL. He's preparing a player to stick in the NHL and be able to do a job in the NHL and these type of things. How much of that comes from practice? When you're evaluating, say, Vancouver needs a center, I know a lot of that comes from what is going on during practice, not just points and stuff. Like a lot of fans can look on elite prospects and see how many points this guy has, but I think most of it, I have to imagine, comes from what you see away from the games almost.
Absolutely, and that comes back to professionalism and how they're approaching every day, what kind of plan they have. The players that come in with the plan that use all our resources, it's not coincidence that they improve and get better. And those habits, those details, we know they need them to not just come get a game or two in the NHL, to stay. It's that hard of a league that you need to have a plan with every day and not just get here, then improve yourself, work your way up a lineup to have a sustained career in the National Hockey League. And that is a part of the environment that we've built and an understanding there. And people that watch our group practice that don't very often, they leave there with a very clear understanding of what we're trying to get out of that day.
Yeah, and it's interesting, even Max, when Max Asson was on the show, he brought up, you know, something that the veteran guys really helped with, where I think he brought up Christian Rolander was saying, hey, if you do an extra 10 minutes of this, times that by how many practices you have all year. And these veteran guys, John Stevens is another great example. I don't even want to call him a veteran yet, but Chase Water is one of these leaders as well. How important are some of these veterans around the group of young guys? Because it was something that Manny said was one of the most important things to have is strong leadership from the guys who have been around and done it.
Well, and it's a part of their improvement is how hard they push each other on a daily basis. I always talk to them about being aware of the quality of teammate that you are. And that's not, hey, I'm buying you lunch. That's you and I one-on-one in a practice drill. I'm going to force you to be better than me. And you do that every day. You tend to, as a group, improve. And that's what Chase doesn't set the table because he's just a good guy in the room. When he gets on the ice, it's a game. On a practice day, it's a game for him. A great example, Phil DiGiuseppe, after every practice, early in the Abbotsford days, he used to skate lines. And then the next day, there were two of them. And then guys start watching and going, well, if Phil has had some success and played playoff hockey in the National, I should probably do that. And then a month into the season, there's 10 guys skating lines. And then Klimo is sitting there going, well, why am I not? And then all of a sudden you've got pretty much an entire team skating lines at the end of practice. And again, that comes back to not just Chase, but some of these guys that we have there. They set the table for every day and what we're trying to get out of it.
Not to mention the coaching staff. I see skating lines out there with the guys.
Oh,
sometimes.
it's a competition amongst the coaches. Pogues is in it. Smitty, Harry, and Manny. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. Chase's name has come up a couple times, and if you're just a Vancouver fan, maybe you don't hear much about the captain out in Abbotsford, but you guys made a decision to put a C on his chest at 22 years old. He played in every single game for you this year. And like I said, his name just comes up. When you're talking Abbotsford Canucks, his name comes up so often. What does he mean as the captain of this Abbotsford team?
Well, his journey is so interesting. Talking to his advisor after his junior career, he was very set on going to university, playing Canadian university hockey and education. Kind of had to convince them to give it a shot in Abbotsford. And did I imagine that it would evolve to this? But from day one, he just symbolized everything of the environment that we wanted, being an Abbotsford Canuck to stand for. And even when it came, I don't like naming captains if it's not there. And throughout a first year, wanted to get a sense of where our group was at, having players, adapt and in a community. There was just a lot that I wanted to see from our group before we went that, where it was very apparent. And I asked people within the organization, am I crazy to think that this kid with the limited experience could be our captain? And I slept on it. And every morning I thought about it. It just felt more like the right thing to do. His leadership, how he treats people, and again, he's a great human being, but that's not what makes him a captain. It's what he brings to every single practice, how he challenges his teammates, goes to bat for his teammates, cares about everybody in that room, including our staff members, our trainers. But the way he approaches everything he does, I don't care if you've played 500 games in the NHL or you're a kid up on a PTO from the East Coast Hockey League, it's very apparent right away who runs that room and who sets the table for a group every day.
I think the room is one thing. I see a lot of him in the community as well. 3 years in a row, he's been Man of the Year for you guys in the Abbotsford Canucks. What does it mean to have him not only lead on the ice in the locker room, but be a guy every time I see a video put out by the Abbotsford Canucks, whether it's going out in the community somewhere, like Chase is there. And I think that's something that the community of Abbotsford must appreciate about their captain.
Well, and it's something he genuinely cares about. The community, again, the people. I think he treats our community like he does his teammates. And it's something that is genuine coming from him always. He wants to be involved. And it helps with our other players around to see him doing that and reciprocating. I think our fans and our community coming into our building know how much our group truly cares about them.
To get more into your team a little bit, a lot of young forwards, and honestly, looking at the forward group, it feels like all four lines can score, all four lines can defend. How good do you feel about your forward group heading into the playoffs here? And especially the way the season ended with a lot of guys getting called up, I wonder if that kind of puts a little bit of a wrench into things of maybe with chemistry-wise, or is it something that you're kind of just building with throughout the year? How do you feel about the forward group heading in?
Well, to your point, it's something I brought up probably about 6 weeks ago to Manny, is reintegration of players that end up finishing the season in the NHL and possibly coming back down. How do we do that? How do we reintegrate them back into roles, into understanding where they fit into the team? There's so many minutes to go around. So it's something we've discussed at length, and I can be honest with you, I don't know if we really have an answer for it.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we've had 2 games to finish out. I've had it before where they dropped into game 1, and it was difficult. I think our forward group understands that we need every single one of them to have a chance to win a playoff round. The minutes are going to go around. Their roles may change throughout a game, but it's one thing we've really focused is in not having just 4 good lines. They need identities. They need to understand how they're going to have to play as 3. But I think even the guys that have come, Carly and Sass and Rats, and they understand this group because they've been a major part of it for most of the year, where they fit in and how we're going to need to play to have any type of success.
When guys were getting called up to the NHL, I found something interesting, talking to a lot of them when they got up here in the locker room and things like that. And it was like, there's so much support from each guy to be like, there weren't like, yeah, they're battling to get that call up, but when they heard that this guy got it or that guy got it, like they were the first person to congratulate them and be so excited for them. How did you set that up? Because almost every single guy that came up here was like the support that they got from their teammates in Abbotsford and how happy they were for them to get an NHL spot when it could have been another guy. Like it could have been another guy in that room and still that guy is cheering on his buddy who gets to go up and play in the NHL. How have you established that over the years?
Well, I think, again, it's something that we harp on, coming back to the quality of the teammate and the people that we want to bring in to that room. They're true fans of each other. I see guys that come up that I run into the hallway here that say, hey, I watched the game against Coachella last night. What a play by... They're watching because they care about each other, and vice versa. Example, Mules comes up and gets his first NHL game, and I'm in the dressing room down there. God, how's Mules doing? Is he okay? I was texting with him. I haven't heard back from him. There's a genuine care and a quality to the relationships, how they treat each other. And when guys get the opportunity, I think they all, and we're told, not just guys on NHL contracts, AHL contracts, PTOs, ATOs, it doesn't matter to me at the end of the day what kind of contract. I'm trying to give all those guys an opportunity to get to the NHL, whether it's here or in another organization. And I think everybody in that room has some sort of hope that their time will come. And if they stay to it, stay to the plan, so that at the end of the day, watching a guy come down Highway 1 and get into a game, I know all those guys are sitting watching and cheering him on.
Who was behind Highway, like the wall that you guys built? The Highway 1 wall is so cool, and it's not just players, it's coaches, it's trainers. It's interesting that there's so much being included in that wall, and it's filling up quick. You had 16 guys this year fill up on that wall, and I just kind of wondering the thought process behind the wall there out in Abbotsford and what it's like kind of just setting it up.
In Utica, I had a little area that we put these little headshots of something to commemorate. And obviously, we didn't have a huge history there in Utica. A little bit of a disconnection from Utica to Vancouver. Everybody was aware of that. So coming into Abbotsford, I wanted to connect that and have guys be able to see it in real time. Where we have it is their walk out to the ice every day for practice. They see it coming out for games. They get to see themselves, their teammates, some of the past coaches and trainers, and it's something to me that is a part of our environment and process there. This is inevitably acknowledging, like I said in the initial meeting, is I know you don't want to be here. I understand that. And I think us, our coaching staff included and trainers, empathizing with that out of the gates to say, that's okay, but you're here. We got to get you on this wall, and not just on the wall, but the end goal is to have you go and never come back. And I think the players, the staff, everybody looks at that as it's great to get on it, but now I want to get to a point where I don't ever come back. And even our staff that have been there, that are on it, when it went up, I know some of them were driving back to get their picture next to it, just to have for their own keepsake. So it's been received very well.
Why'd you guys want to include staff as well? Because this could be an easy thing to just put players on there.
Well, I think organizationally with Jim and Patrick, our motto has always been, to develop from within, to promote from within, not just our players, but from staff, to be able to hire people, have them start in Abbotsford and be a part of that. That is true growth, and I think that helps us in regard to the next people we bring into Abbotsford to see how important that is to us. I felt it was a definite that staff that had came in and been a part of that environment, that we now bring down the road and be a part of our group here in Vancouver, that they should be a part of that as well.
Awesome. I think I got to get my face on that wall. I feel
right.
like I got
That's
the
right.
promotion
That's
as well.
right. That's right.
Just kind of watching, I guess, this group and the way that it's gone throughout the year. When there are players getting called up, it's one thing, it's great, you can celebrate it. But I'm curious how you approach when a player comes back. Because sometimes it's because an injured player of the NHL came back and that's why they're up. But sometimes it could be because of how they played in the NHL and there's some things to work on still. So you got such the bright part of when they get called up. How do you deal with when they're coming back to you?
Well, I think you have to acknowledge the positives, whether they're coming back to us because of a tough game or somebody coming back from injury is, okay, what can we take from that experience and learn from it? And then the second part of is understanding how hard it is acclimating back into the American Hockey League. It is a different game. When guys come up for 4 or 5 games or they come up for 20 and go back, I can tell them that the first 2 games are going to be probably very average, just based off of it's a little more erratic. Positionally, some players are out of place at times, and you have to really, when you come back and think, oh, this will be easy now. I've played in the NHL. It's the reverse, and just having them learn from the experience that they had, take the positives. What can they get better at, or what can they apply now to their game in the American Hockey League? But come back to the fundamentals and the details. And I think every time we've seen a guy come up and come back to the American Hockey League, the second time around or the third time around, they've taken another step, and they've taken another step. And you've seen that with Carly, even Lecky. Every time he has come by, he's made strides and made steps. And eventually, like I said, the goal is to get you here and you never go back.
And it was interesting. I think Aturatu is probably another good example of that, who had a couple different stints of the NHL, but he played his full season last year, all 72 games for you guys, without getting a sniff of the NHL. When that happens for a young player who thinks of, a very skilled player and has played NHL games before, how did you kind of approach maybe like the end of year chat that you had with Atu to kind of set him up for this year? Because I feel like every guy wants to get at least a sniff in the NHL, especially a player in his position. But he came back this year and it looked like a much improved player in Ratu's game. What was it like just having him for a full year in Abbotsford and getting a chance to work with him? And he was 20, 21 at the time, I think, as well.
Watching his growth throughout the years, sometimes you have to get out of your own way and say, why don't we just let it keep going? And I think sometimes bringing a guy in, having him be an 11th forward, play 7 or 8 minutes, having him be a healthy scratch, you can put a real stop to the momentum of the development. And I think with him, we just decided to get out of the way, just keep him playing high minutes. To Manny's point of developing NHL players, we wanted him to be penalty killing, roles that he's going to have to eventually play up here, to do things there on a daily and not just for 5 games. But the role that he was on and how he was growing, it was why stop this? We knew this year he was going to get an opportunity, whether he made the team out of camp or eventually got there. And you look, I think that decision from last year has really thrust him forward this year.
What do you think of the right-handed face-offs from him? It's an interesting tweak. We don't really see any other pros doing it.
Yeah, and you say to guys all the time, you have to add things to your game that give you extra minutes, that gives a coach a reason to put you on the ice. That's a perfect example of a left-hand guy that is earning trust on the right-hand side of the ice, where he may not typically get the opportunity to go out there. That's something that gives Rats extra minutes and extra responsibility.
Yeah, no, I loved seeing it happen because I remember he got called to do it in overtime at the NHL level, and I talked to him right after that game, and he was pretty proud of that part that he added to his game is now working at the NHL, and he did that in the AHL. So I thought that was interesting. And as we kind of wrap up here and close out, I do want to ask about the goaltending situation. Heading in, you've got Shelovs, he's got Tolopilo, Ty Young, Yuri Patera. There's a lot going on out there in Abbotsford in the crease. So what is the goaltending situation heading into the playoffs here?
Well, we're excited. Obviously, we've had a lot of moving parts throughout the year. Having Artie has been, with us now, Tolo getting his opportunity. Yuri was playing very great hockey for us before he got hurt in Ontario. Ty has come in and played some outstanding games for us in Abbotsford. With him, we just wanted to keep his reps and keep him playing, but what a great first pro year for him and his development. So we feel really good about our 4. and we'll get to tomorrow morning and see who Manny decides to give game one, and we go from there.
I always hear it's the best problem to have. I mean, normally they say 2 guys. You guys got 4 cutting in.
I've usually been, if you look back a year ago, where you look at where we started the playoffs here against Nashville, and then where things went. At one point, you've got Artie starting and Tolo as his backup in Nashville to where things started weeks before, and us in Colorado in the American League playing, how much it could change. It just, when you've got 4 extremely good goaltenders right now with us, it is comforting from that standpoint.
What's impressed you with the new crop of young players coming in? Because I feel like you've got some of the OGs who have been here since that first year, but some new guys have came into the lineup. And what have you thought about how they've adjusted to, not necessarily the league? I'm more curious about adjusting to the Abbotsford culture and what you guys expect from them. How do you think the young guys have kind of taken that on?
Well, it's been great. I think it's been paramount in their growth and adapting to what is typically a very hard league in your first year. I always call it the Christmas League, where first-year players tend to just struggle. It's not just on ice, but off ice. They're growing up essentially. They've got to get, vehicles getting around. They're into an apartment, maybe cooking for themselves for the first time, figuring out. And then on top of that, they've got to go to the arena and figure out how do I fit into this very tough American Hockey League. So to have people and an environment that can help through that adjustment, and I think you look at Kudryavtsev and how quickly he had got up and going DPD, which many people thought, oh, this is going to be, it's when you have an environment that is there to protect them at times, and they're able to make mistakes and feel comfortable in making mistakes early and understand that's a part of their growth. Sometimes you can speed up. It isn't the Christmas League and they get it into November. It's like, okay, here we go. But it's watching them come in and some of those guys not just be able to sustain or play every night, but really impact our group has been really enjoyable to watch.
Because I think a lot of people were quite surprised that DPD could play NHL games and be consistent like that. And Kirill comes in and looks fine in an NHL game. But the way that you kind of spoke of it, maybe not as much of a surprise to you that they were able to come in and play in the NHL level?
No, and I think even, and I've spoken on this before, even with Lecky, Petey, coming over at the end of last season and being a part of it, learning the staff, the community, the building, the teammates, and what the league was all about. I think that was really a key in how quickly they progressed along. All of a sudden you come back to training camp or your first year in the American League and I've been here. I know how hard this is going to be. This is what I'm going to have to do. I think it truly does at times give you a leg up on things. And even we've got guys there now or that may come in if their seasons, that even them watching these games and just being around in that environment really helps heading into the next season.
Yeah, I think it has to be massive because if you're showing up at training camp after finishing whatever season you just had, you don't know any faces even at this point. So I guess who are some of the young guys that are around here that have joined the team and now kind of getting that experience but doing it this year?
Well, Vilmer Ulrichsen, who he joined us off, I hadn't played in a few months because of shoulder injury, that is healthy now and is a part of our group out there, and jumping into that environment, understanding how we expect things, watching these games, being able to see the intensity, that'll help him big time moving forward. He's a guy that I'm really excited about. He's got the size and can skate. I think some of them end up being better pros than they are junior or college players or in Europe for that matter. And he's one of those I'm excited to see get to the pro level and see what we can do with him.
Is that kind of a new development in the AHL? I feel like I don't remember that a ton with Utica specifically, seeing that happen of, players coming in after the season and really just being a part of everything. It feels like that's a new development in this league.
Yeah, I think there are teams that do it and see the value in it. And even for me, is being around our strength conditioning group and really getting a foothold on what the off-season needs to look like. So they leave here and go, okay, I know exactly what I'm walking into. I know exactly how I've got to train. I know the trainers, the coaches, I know what their expectation. It's almost like going to school for the last time before you jump into it.
To kind of wrap up, I do want to get to your time in the AHL because I saw a logo that was one of the craziest logos I've ever seen. You played for the Beasts of New Haven. What do you remember from your time there, and do you remember what the logo looked like? Because that was one of the scariest things I've ever seen.
I don't have memorabilia. I still have that jersey. I remember in warm-ups, people from other teams just go, "What is that?" And the colors of it are off the chart. So yes, I do recall the team, my time there, and a part of my AHL journey. Something I remember and am thankful for.
And then during your playing days, I wanted to ask a little bit about the time in the mid-2000s when you're playing with the Blues. Like, there was some names on this. It's like Doug Waite, Keith Tkachuk, Scott Young was there, Eric Brewer, Bill Guerin, Chris Osgood, Chris Pronger was there as well. How much did you learn from playing with some of guys like that?
Well, even going back to my days in Florida of Scott Mellenby, who I played with, but Brett Hedekins, Pavel Bures, some of the players I was able to play with, one of the things I did a lot was just observe them. And I encourage young players, so sometimes, I know this, I know that. And sometimes when you watch greatness around you, you can pick up on a lot of good things. And I encourage guys to, and I think it was a big part of my career was watching guys that had done it for a long time, why they did what they did, what their habits were like. And one of the goals of my career early was just to earn their respect. And by watching them and learning from them and implementing what I learned from them, I felt to eventually earn their respect. And never, even towards the end of my career, I always enjoyed watching good players and good people and the habits and how they did things, because that, to me, was the reason why they were where they were.
And to get to your time as a Vancouver Canuck, you show up here and Roberto Luongo was named captain. What was it like having a goaltender as a captain? Because I think it's only happened 6 times in the NHL, and you got to experience it your whole time here.
And I had played with Roberto in Florida, so I knew Roberto, his personality, and it was unique in being a first for me to be around. But obviously, Roberto was an amazing player, amazing person, means a lot to the franchise and to our team at that time.
And what do you remember, I guess, from just playing in Vancouver in your couple of years that you got to spend here? Just memories from being a Canuck, what were they?
Well, to be honest, I came here as a free agent because I wanted to be in the fire. I wanted the pressure to win. I wanted to win a Stanley Cup, and maybe there were opportunities to go places where the expectation wasn't there and it could be fun and easy. I wanted it to be hard. I realized in my conversation with the management at the time what their intentions were. I knew with Daniel and Henrik in their prime, some of the other pieces that were here, and Kessler and Bieksa and Matthias Oland and Alex Edler, that we had a very good chance. And so to come to make that leap and experience the organization, the city, the province, the passion, the expectation, what hockey in April and May meant, something that changed my life, really, and is the reason I sit where I am, today.
And, you spend your time, you joined the Canucks in 2013 in the front office role. To get Daniel and Henrik to come back and now be on the ice with you so much in Abbotsford, what's it like to just have them out there with the young guys? And especially, you got so many Swedes out there, too. They must just love seeing those two.
It's been really something I treasure, watching their enjoyment of the AHL level. When I first talked to them about coming on board and what that was like, I said to them, guys, you haven't had to live the American Hockey League, but once you learn it and how vulnerable these players are to information and to growth and to not just on ice but off ice, you're going to fall in love with it. And I think I see how much fun they have out there, the interactions with the staff, with the players. They've been a huge part of the environment out there, but just from going to them as players to seeing them now, I knew that would be something that they would fall in love with, and they certainly have.
So you guys won 2/3 of your games on home ice this year at the Abbotsford Center. What was it about that building that worked so well for you guys? Because any player will tell you we want to make this a hard place to play, but you guys did that. You accomplished that this year. What is it about that building that really helps you guys every game?
Well, we have great fans. Like I said, our community is embraced. I love, driving out to the game early and seeing the jerseys on the highway, seeing people in and around the community excited about it. Our guys, like I said, they're not just playing for a team, they're playing for a community out there. It means something to them. And I know they're all really, really excited as we move through the final part of the season. They wanted to see playoff games in Abbotsford. And I know they're all really excited, myself, staff included, to see our fans in the building tomorrow night. And hopefully they bring some noise and some energy as they always do.
So that's what I asked Max Hassan to wrap up. What do you want to see from the fans?
Well, just their enjoyment and passion for the group. We want to hear noise. We want to see the towels, and hopefully we can, we can bring the game and the identity and the formula that we have at times throughout the season that has given us success, especially in the Abbotsford Centre, and hope they can all leave at some point happy.
Well, RJ, we're excited for it. It gets going on Wednesday night, Thursday night, and then potentially Saturday as well, and hopefully a long run as well. We're excited to see what the Abbotsford Canucks can do. It's been a fun season to follow this year, and there's still lots to come here in the playoffs. So thanks for taking some time and joining us on the podcast today.
Great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.